right, here we go. Yep.
Oh, you're recording it? Gotcha.
Yeah, I forgot to turn it on. And here we are talking and carrying on. Well, I'll get it. It may take a minute. So basically the point that I'm making about Bhagavad-Gita is that if something touches your heart, okay, so we've used this example before. Let's say you have someone who is either your family member, your mother, father, beloved wife, husband. Hey, there you go. I see Callie. Hey, Callie. Hey, what's going on, guys? Good to see you.
Hi.
Thank you so much.
We made it.
You made it. You did real good. Well, thanks for coming. I appreciate that. Good to see you.
You're welcome.
I know you've been working hard all day. So we're in the middle of a discussion about Bhagavad-Gita. And what we're talking about are the various versions of Bhagavad-Gita. There's so many versions of Gita, just like there's so many versions of the Bible. But the point that I was making just then is that if someone sends you a letter and they write down exactly what they want you to know, but the mailman gets it and opens it and looks inside and goes, I don't like the content, I think I'll change it. Right? And so he puts in his own interpretations, his own ideas, and what he would do. And then he closes it back up and sends it to you. You may never know what the original person who sent you that letter meant. Does that make sense? And it may lead you off in a different direction. And you may not understand that person at all. As a matter of fact, you may become angry with that person. You may deject that person because you thought that what that person said was what the original party had intended. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yes.
So the idea is Bhagavad-Gita as it is means Song of God as it is. It's the oldest known writings on the earth, literally. A lot of the scientists today who are archaeologists and stuff and astronomers, astrologers like that, they have determined that it's at least 5,100 years old, but they don't really know. They don't really know. Actually, the Bhagavad-Gita appears in a work called Mahabharata. Okay, and so the Mahabharata is a gigantic, voluminous history of the world. The earth was originally called Bharat. Okay, Bharat, named after the king, actually, at that time. He was a great king in the earth. He was a Raja Rishi, or a saintly king. Okay, so that saintly king lived a life of nobility, morality, and in harmony with the earth and all of its inhabitants. So the earth was originally known as Bharata Bhumi. Okay, so that's Sanskrit. Now we call it whatever we call it, and we've broken it up in all these various sections and nations and like that. And originally the Bhagavad-Gita was only just a few chapters, like about 6 chapters. I don't know if it's 6, something like that, out of the Mahabharata. And it only contains 700 verses. Now, the Mahabharata, I think, has 400,000 verses or something along those lines. Very, very voluminous. And it discusses great kings of ancient time and their methods of living on the earth, their histories, the dramas of their life, what the battle actually of good and evil is depicted in that. So we see when it comes down to the Bhagavad-Gita, and I'm giving this historical context so that everybody can kind of get a better idea of what it is we're talking about. So the Bhagavad-Gita is over 5,000 years old. It is God incarnate on the world. God is known as an avatar when he comes to the world. Okay. So there's a movie now called Avatar, and there's all these little funny faces you can make that are avatars. But the word avatar is a Vedic word, which means one who comes down from the spiritual world to the material world. That's the actual meaning of avatar in the Sanskrit. So it says in the Sanskrit that the supreme person is coming again and again and again and again and again over all eternal time, since time immemorial. Or he sends his sons or daughters or his representatives. He will come and incarnate on planet Earth. So the Bhagavad-Gita is just a time where God himself came to the earth as Krishna. Okay, so we've heard the word Krishna, so we should know what the word Krishna actually means. The word Krishna means that person who is the most beautiful, the most wealthy, the most wise, the most famous, the most powerful, yet the most renounced. In other words, not conceited. All of the attributes that we're attracted to in our idols in the world, but in full, of which no one can be equal to nor greater than. So that's what the word Krishna means. And it depicts a person who has those characteristics. So when God comes to the earth, there's always a reason. And that reason is described in the Bhagavad-Gītā. It says, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chadushkitam dharma samstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So what that means is sadhunam means the saints, or those persons who are living in harmony with the universal will. Okay, so sadhanam, and duskritam means those people who are not. Those people who are living outside of harmony, not only with their own self, but with everybody else and the earth and the universe, and they're developing what we would call bad karma. And so bad karma can be collective. It can be a collective thing. It can be found in nations or races of people or cultures of people, or throughout all history. We see that some people are pretty much doomed. I mean, we see they're either destroyed by armies or volcanoes get them, or like in Pompeii. We see these things happen. I mean, these are unfortunate incidents. And when we see that everything is going on in the world, you turn on the news at night, you see the results of karma. It's all over the television screen for you to see that. So I don't want to get off into this now, but there's good, because the next, not the next chapter, but the chapter after this one is called Karma Yoga. So we're going to talk about karma yoga and how to fix our karma, because we don't want a ton of bricks falling on our head, right? So the idea is right action creates harmonious environment. Action that's outside of the natural law creates a bad reaction. And we see that prison houses are filled normally with people who have lived outside of the law, even of society. So we see that they've caused suffering to others. And as a result, they have to be restrained. It's unfortunate, but we have free will, because without free will, there is no such thing as love. So if you don't have free will, you could say, love me or I'll shoot you. And people may love you or act like they love you, but as soon as you remove the gun, they're not interested in that anymore, and they'll escape from you. Okay, so the idea is love is a free will thing. It's a gift. It's a willful honoring of another person in a selfless way. So we talked about Ashtanga yoga, which we yama, giving up everything that's not good for you, accepting everything that is good for you. Okay, yama, that's what that means. And then oxygenating the body, performing the asana, aligning the areas of the body, and then concentrating, focusing, getting the mind to a meditative state, and then fixing the mind on one point and removing the agitation that surrounds the mind. Normally the mind is like this wheel that's just going and going and going. And most people can't stop it. So there are ways to stop it, and yoga is one of them. Dhyana yoga, dharana yoga. There's a chapter in the Bhagavad-Gītā called Dhyana yoga, which is meditation. So the purpose of meditation, though, is to fix our minds on the supreme person. So that's the idea in the Bhagavad-Gītā, and that's what Krishna has to say to each one of you and to everyone who will hear his voice in the world. Now, keep in mind, this book was spoken 5,000 years ago on a battlefield, and there are 1 billion people who adhere to the Bhagavad-Gītā today. 1 billion after 5,000 years. How is that possible? Right? So it must have made a real impression on folks. And it did. Just like we're talking about Jesus Christ 2,000 years later, and we're adhering to his words, follow me. Yeah, we're trying to do that. So because it made a real impression on our hearts and souls, and it woke our soul up to the point where we felt a little love. We could feel that spiritual love, that unconditional love that we're all looking for in these great souls and personalities. So the Bhagavad Gita took place in a situation, and I'm going to set this up for you, just so you'll have an understanding, and we'll talk about the first chapter a little bit, and then we'll do a little meditation, a little musical meditation in just a minute, okay? Because we want to learn meditation, and we'll talk about that more in just a second. But for now, 5,000. Try to imagine you wake up tomorrow, okay? And all of a sudden, your administration, the government has been thrown out. They're gone. Somebody's usurped it. They're violent. They're mean to you. They're punishing everyone. Their motives are money, profit, fame, adoration, distinction, control, power, and you're thrown out. And so now you're living in this life of fear. Well, that's exactly what happened to the king in this time period 5,000 years ago. Okay, so basically what had happened is there were two brothers. Hey there, how you doing?
Hey, I'm
All
fine,
right.
thank you.
Good to
I had
see
a
you.
difficult time trying to join the Zoom.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah. Well,
That's okay.
it took me a minute to get used to it too. So don't feel bad about it. We're so glad to see you. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you.
Hello, Dr. Sharma.
Hey, Ranga, how are you doing?
Hi, Krishna. Well,
Hare
thank you
Krishna.
for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you. I
Really
would love to.
appreciate
Sure.
you coming. He's an expert on Bhagavad-Gita. He's been teaching Bhagavad-Gita
Sure.
20 years, really,
Dr.
haven't you?
Sharma, you have, sir?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, almost
please,
25
my
years.
respect.
Yeah. Hare
Very,
Krishna.
very wonderful. Well, please, we're going to open this for a little discussion in a moment. What we're doing right now, Dr. Sharma, is we're just talking about how Bhagavad Gita took place, why it took place, and when it took place. And then we'll set the stage, and then we'll talk about the first chapter, and then we're going to open this for questions. And we're going to run out of time, so I'm kind of going through it fairly rapidly. We're going to try to do a chapter each time we meet each Monday night. We'll have about 1 hour to do that. So where we were in our discussion was that there were two kings, and one was Pandu and Dhritarashtra. Okay, so Dhritarashtra was the oldest, but he was born blind, right? So Dhritarashtra could not take the throne, so it devolved to Pandu, but Pandu died at an early age. So his right to the throne would have then devolved to Yudhisthira, which is the oldest son of the Pandavas, the 5 Pandavas, right? So, but unfortunately, Dhritarashtra's son, Dronacharya, was very, very envious and was very attached to power, and he wanted the kingdom. And his father, who was blind and fairly weak-minded, Dhritarashtra, allowed him then to create an environment where the Pandavas were persecuted. As a matter of fact, they were cheated out of their kingdom. Their kingdom was usurped by Dronacharya, and he cheated them in gambling and tried to disrobe the mother Kunti, tried to disrobe her and embarrassed her in a very public environment, and then ultimately banned them, exiled them to the forest for 13 years. So we see this is repeated also in the recent Ram Navami, which we just went through the other day, which was very, very nice. And they were Ram and Sita and Lakshman exiled for 14 years. So what happens is when Yudhisthira and Arjuna, Nakula, Sahadeva, and Bhima comes back to claim their rightful heir to the throne, and they approach Drona, he says, not going to give it to you. But they're duty bound to be administrators. So they say, well, okay, they're humble. We'll take 5 villages. And Dronacharya said, I wouldn't give you enough land to manage that would fit on the tip of a pin. So at this point, they're a little disturbed. So they go to Krishna, who's, by the way, the cousin, and he saved them many, many times already. So they ask him to be an emissary to go to Dronacharya and Dhritarashtra and try to talk some sense into these guys. And he goes there and he's completely rejected. So now war is inevitable, right? Because it is a battle between good, really good and evil, a battle between dharma and adharma. That which is irreligious, immoral, not appropriate behavior, envious, greedy, lusty behavior against those personalities who are literally saintly, right? So as a result, the battle of Kurukshetra is formed. Now, Krishna as God would not fight in the battle. He would be stacked against whoever, okay? So he said, you could have me as your chariot driver, one of you, and your advisor, and the other side can have my armies. So Krishna had magnificent armies. And so Dronacharya, the evil-minded Dhritarashtra, they snatched at Krishna's armies immediately because they don't recognize the Supreme Person. They don't recognize the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's like those who have eyes can see, but those who don't have eyes can't see. They can't understand. So the Pandavas, they had eyes to see, and they could understand that this Krishna was the Supreme Personality, most beautiful, wealthy, wise, famous, powerful, yet renounced. So he then became the chariot driver of Arjuna. And this is when the first chapter actually begins. And it shows these two magnificent armies, literally the most amazing armies you could ever possibly imagine. And you could study that more when you have time, anybody who has an interest in doing that. And you see how they were arranged on the battlefield. The battlefield of Kurukshetra is still there today. And you can go there, and there's a big chariot of Krishna and Arjuna. You've seen this, Dr. Sharma, I'm sure. I don't know if you've been there or not. Yeah, but very, very beautiful. A lot of people go. I had just had a friend who just got back from there. And so the battle is getting ready to start. And at that time, Bhishma, who is on the side of Dronacharya, blows his conch shell. So they blew these conch shells. They're very uproarious, and they're boasting their power. And when he does, it enlivened the heart of Dhritarashtra. But then Krishna blew his conch shell, and then Arjuna blew his, and everyone, they shattered the hearts of the son of Dhritarashtra. And they could see that, we've got ourselves in a little trouble here. So Arjuna's ready to go to war. He's preparing his arrows. Krishna's there. And he asked Krishna as his chariot driver, he said, would you please draw this chariot up in the midst of the army so I can see who is desirous of fighting? So he pulls this beautiful chariot drawn by these beautiful white horses into the midst of both the armies. And when Arjuna sees the people who are there, which are his uncles, his cousins, his teachers, people he has great respect for, his family members, and he realizes this is going to be a civil war. And when he realizes he's going to be required to kill his own kindred souls, that he tells Krishna that he is his hands are shaking, his mouth is drying up, his bow Gandiva, which he's about to fire into the enemy's bodies, falls from his hands, and he sits down dejected, and he tells Krishna that he will not fight. Now, before he does that, he gives Krishna lots of good reasons, right? Some of the reasons are that if we kill the family, then the family traditions are destroyed, then unwanted progeny happens and the world is destroyed because no one is protected at that point. Any unscrupulous man then would take advantage of women, et cetera, and so on. And there'd be so many disasters in the world due to these unwanted the progeny of the world. So he goes through a wide variety of arguments with Krishna, but these arguments are on a mundane platform. So Krishna has already, as God, determined that these personalities have to be destroyed. Just like we said, Paritranaya saranam vinashaya chadushkitam. That means to annihilate the miscreant, Krishna comes, and to reestablish the principles of Dharma. Dharma is different than changing religion. You could be a Baptist today, Hindu tomorrow, a Muslim the next day, a Jew the next day. You could convert to any religion you want, and you could take these things up and then you could quit them. Krishna says in Bhagavad-Gītā in another chapter that whatever's taken its birth, its death is certain. So Sanatana Dharma has never come into being, and it will never end, just like your soul has never come into being and will never end. The body itself is constantly changing. So the body, though, is made out of the elements, an earth, water, fire, air, ether, and it turns and lays back down. So it's endlessly mutable. So these are things that we'll discuss a little bit later as we go along. But for now, we're going through the first chapter, and we've come to the end of that discussion that teaches us how the battle happened, why the battle happened, when it happened. And so it's set up for the second chapter, which is the contents of the Gita summarized. Now, the Gita's purpose is to describe to us who we are, where we came from, what we're doing here, where we're going when we leave, and we can understand our position in the greater universe by hearing the words from Krishna's mouth as they are, without interpretation. So Bhagavad-Gītā as it is, the Gita that we study, can be found, and you can write this down if you don't already have this, on vedabase.io. And Rangavati, you might want to put that on the thing down there if you don't mind, for everybody to see. And you can go directly to that site and you can read the Bhagavad-Gītā, you can read the Srimad Bhagavatam, you can read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, all these wonderful Vedic literatures you can read, okay? So that's the idea. And so at this point, what I would like to do is kind of open the floor for a moment for discussion or questions that you may have regarding this first introduction, setting the scene, and also the first chapter where Arjuna is drawn into the battlefield and becomes demotivated as a result of seeing his relatives and realizing what his duty would be to kill them. Okay, so if you have any questions, please speak up, and if we can try our best to answer them or discuss them together. Or if you have any comments, Dr. Sharma, we'd like to hear from you as well.
No, I think it's well taken, meaning. I think you are showcasing us for the next chapter. The only little thing is instead of Kunti, the derobing section was for Draupadi, not Kunti.
Oh.
Yeah, you mentioned Kunti.
Oh.
Kunti was Krishna's Bua, father's sister.
Oh, I meant her. She was the one that was disrobed.
Yeah, I know you meant her, but you mentioned Kunti.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, sorry about that. But she was disrobed and embarrassed in front of the assembly, and everyone was laughing and humiliating and trying to downgrade the Pandavas and their family, including her. So yeah, well, that's a good point. I appreciate that. I'm sorry, sometimes my geriatric kicks in a little bit.
I know, it's with every one of us.
Yes. So yeah, so that's the idea of this particular setup for setting the scene. And then we'll take a chapter each time after this. And what we'll do is we'll just take the essence of each chapter and the verses that we should study and learn in each chapter and commit to our own realization so that we can become more and more Krishna conscious as we go along in this process. And we can understand the meaning of what Krishna is trying to give to us so that we can become self-realized souls in the world. About 50 years ago, I was a young rock and roll musician, and I was traveling all over the world playing music. And I used to run across these Hare Krishna devotees. And they would bring me a magazine or a book or whatever. They didn't have many books back then. This is early 70s. But they had lots of magazines, and they would bring these magazines. And I remember reading the magazine. It said, chant Hare Krishna and be happy. And I thought, what? How can that be? You know, everyone's trying to be happy. But how is it simply by chanting something that you can become happy? And so for me, it was a difficult stretch because I had never heard of mantra meditation at the time. I'd been practicing yoga. I'd been practicing hatha yoga. And I'd been doing asanas. I did 25 asanas a day. This is from 1969, 70, 71, all the way to the headstand. And I had been enriching the breath with the oxygen, you know, the pranayama. And I was trying to understand God, but I was doing it by researching the Bible, the Quran, you know, every book that I could find. And so I had read Bhagavad-Gita, but I hadn't read As It Is. And then when I finally got the Bhagavad-Gita As It Is, I read it 3 times straight through. And I said, I looked on the back and I saw the picture of this little Indian man. And I thought, wherever he is,
You want to meet him.
that's where I'm going to find him, because he is my teacher, because he answered every question that I had. And I've been reading volumes and volumes of books and studied theology and theosophy, philosophy. You know, I was studying Gurdjieff, Ouspensky. I was reading every holy book. I was looking into Buddhism, Zen Buddhism, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, everything I could find. But when I read Bhagavad-Gita As It Is, I was a changed person, and that was 50 years ago. And by the way, I've never stopped reading Bhagavad-Gita. I read it daily, and I get new insight into Bhagavad-Gita every single day that I read it. And it's
That's
fresh, it's dynamic. Yeah. You know, I think Gandhi made that statement too. He said, whenever he's feeling as low as he can possibly.
Yes. That's right. That's true.
Yeah, he picks it up. Of course, Einstein has read it. Werner von Braun, he quoted it. I mean, if we look at all Thoreau, Emerson, you know, all these people have studied Bhagavad-Gita. All these great thinkers have studied Bhagavad-Gita, and now it's our turn. Now it's our turn. But I was explaining to Drew earlier that it had been locked in the Sanskrit language, and it had been translated by people who brushed aside Krishna as just some quaint character. But Krishna is the goal of Bhagavad-Gita. He's the speaker of Bhagavad-Gita. He is the supreme personality come to bring you home. And so to ignore that and to translate that to mean something that it doesn't mean is actually a great disservice. And so this has been done in the Bible and other books as well. As we know, things have been edited, but it's recommended that we don't change one dot or one tittle, as it says in the Bible. So we don't want to change what God has given. And Drew and I had a conversation about this before you came on, Dr. Sean. And if you give me a letter, my job as the postman is to deliver it unchanged.
Even in Srimad Bhagavatam, 18,000 verses, somebody wanted to change 1 or 2 words, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, no, do not change any single word there. So from prehistoric times, it has never been changed.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
So that is the goal, is to give this information. You know, our spiritual master Prabhupada initiated me as Gayatri Da. And he said, it's all you have to do is repeat what you've been taught. You don't have to, you know, it's like in modern sciences, unless you have your own theory, you're not even acknowledged in the academic world. You have to have your own idea about what it is. And but with Sampradaya, that means that Krishna spoke, and now it's being handed down from one spiritual master to the next, unbroken. And that information is designed to reach your heart and soul so that you can, hey, there you are, Simon, you're with us. So now we got Simon. What this Simon?
Here's the sweet man.
There he is, Simon Sweet.
Thank you, Simon.
What a great soul to have with us. We're so happy to have him. He's a serious student of the Vedic literature.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Cool. So very, very nice to have everyone come tonight. We just finished actually a 1-year presentation of the Bhagavad-Gita in person. We did this at a little studio in Nashville called Happy Go Yogi. And some of you attended. I know Simon was there, and Drew was there, and Rangavati was there, and there may be some others that came. And we had a blast doing it. We got all the way up to the universal form, and that's where we didn't finish that. But that was a heavy chapter we were getting ready to get into. So we've decided now to come back and start over and do this online because more people can attend this way, we believe. And if we record it, we can publish it and people can watch it whenever they want to, you know, and it's more accessible to the masses of people. So any comment or any question about what we've discussed so far?
Denise, I noticed you made a comment there. Did you want to explain how come this explains why you like kirtan so much?
Are you?
Yeah, being not necessarily raised in, but exposed to Christian religion, the hymns and the gospel songs never appealed to me. So I found it, I don't know, wondrously strange that singing, praising lords in a different language makes me so happy, and I want to attend more. It's been a mystery to me. So
That's really, really good. Well, this kirtan movement, has really taken off because, okay, so kirtan or sankirtan, as Lord Chaitanya presented it and started this movement 500 years ago, with these mantras. Man means mind, tra means to liberate or release the mind from this wheel of anxiety and so forth and so on. Absorb our minds in the names of God. So in the Vedas, it says there's unlimited names of God. Nam namakari bahuda nijasar vishaktis tetrapata niyamita smaranena kala. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said there's not even any fast or hard rules of chanting. So we can apply it to music, and we can become locked in a state of meditation in this modern age. Because previously you had to go to the Himalayas, you had to sit on kusha grass, you had to sit there sometimes for years and meditate to get your mind focused and clear. So this kirtan program has become very popular because everyone loves music. And so the mantra is applied to music, and then the mantra liberates the mind, and the melodies get stuck in our mind, and we stay in this state of meditation for a long period of time, the rhythms and the mantra and all that stuff, very quieting to our heart and soul. So that's a very wonderful comment. Thank you very much for that, because we see that there's a huge popularity for Sankirtan. Now, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu predicted that in every single town and village, God's name would be sung. And we're actually beginning to see that worldwide.
It's almost worldwide.
Yeah.
I believe Nostradamus also had predicted that.
Oh, he did?
Yes, I have that quotation also somewhere.
I love that. I love that.
But you see, the beauty of kirtan, and even above kirtan, is someone who is singing a bhajan and who is in great devotional spirit at that time. I call that a cry of the soul for the Lord.
Yes.
I think that's really the soul yearning for the super soul.
That's it. That's it. And the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is the Maha Mantra. It is meant to be sung in a state of a small child crying for its mother. And in that sincere mood of love and devotion, God will come. So if I call you, Dr. Sharma, you're going to come. You're going to answer me. You're not so crude or cruel that you wouldn't answer. So God is much more compassionate than we can possibly ever imagine. So that's the idea behind it. So we have about 15 minutes left. And if you would like, we can do a little mantra meditation. You may have to mute your mic so that we can chant together. And if you want to do that, that would be fine. But first, are there any other questions that you can think of? Any other comments? Yeah, go ahead, Drew. I can't hear you. You got to unmute.
Is that a guitar I see?
It just
That's my
happens.
only question.
Just happens to be a guitar right here.
That's my only question.
Yeah, they have I have harmoniums, madungas, all these different things here, and we'll get around to all of that as we go along, in due course of time. But this particular, and Simon, do you have any questions? No? Okay. So that's unusual for you, Simon. He calls me all the time. He's got good questions. I'm going to tell you that right now. So this mantra is Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Let's say that together. Om Namo
Om Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Yeah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And then we're going to chant after that. We'll chant Hare Krishna. Say
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna Krishna.
Krishna Krishna.
Hare Hare.
Hare Hare.
Hare Ram.
Hare Ram.
Hare Ram.
Hare Ram.
Ram Ram.
Ram Ram.
That's
Some
really-
of them have their phones muted, I think, the voice.
And it's okay. During this chanting, it might be wise to mute it unless you,
Oh, really?
we can try it without the mute if you'd like and see how it works. But I'm just going to chant this for just a few moments. And then what we're going to do is follow the advice of our doctor who has made a prescription for us today. And I'm very happy to take that prescription. The prescription is to chant with sincerity, with feeling, to chant with emotion, to
Love and devotion.
yeah, let your heart open and let the Supreme Soul come in to sit next to your soul. Create literally a throne for God to come and seat himself on in your own heart. And ask the Lord with all sincerity to come. And don't think about the world. Don't think about your job. Don't think about what you got to do tomorrow. Just listen to the mantra and sing the mantra. And we'll do that for a few moments. And it's very mellow. So let's try that now, if that's okay with you guys. Is that all right?
Sure.
All right, here we go. All right. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Again. Om Namo
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Jai Bhagavan, Shri Krishna Bhagavan. And there it is. Jaya Bhagavad Shri Krishna. Sing that. Jaya Bhagavad Shri Krishna Bhagavad. Jaya Bhagavad Shri Krishna Bhagavad. Again. Jaya Bhagavad Shri Krishna Bhagavad. Jaya Bhagavad Shri Krishna. Jai Shri Krishna.
Bhagavan.
Jai Shri Krishna. Sing
Bhagavan.
that. Jai Shri Krishna.
Bhagavan.
Jai Shri Krishna. Jai Shri Krishna. Jai Shri Krishna. Jai Shri Krishna.
Jai.
Krishna. Jai Shri 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 Krishna.
Krishna.
Jai Shri Krishna. Here we go. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama,
Hare Rama,
Rama Rama,
Rama, Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama.
Rama Rama. Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sing Hare Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Hare.
Hare.
Hare Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama.
Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama, Hare Rama,
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 Hare
Hare
Hare Krishna,
Krishna, Hare
Krishna,
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 Hare
Hare
Hare.
Hare.
Hare Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
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 Hare
Hare
Hare.
Hare.
Hare Krishna, 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 Hare
Krishna,
Hare.
Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna
Hare
Krishna, Hare
Hare.
Hare.
Hare Rama, Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Rama.
Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare.
Om Namo Bhagavate
Hare
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Haribol.
Haribol, Haribol.
So I hope that came out okay. It's hard to do that kind of thing on Zoom. For some reason, it can be a little difficult because I can't really hear you guys a little bit in the background. But I hope
I
everyone's
could-
singing. Was everyone singing?
Yes, I could not get on the computer, so I'm on my phone. It's all the images are very small.
Oh, yeah, I
Next
know.
time I'll try my best to get on the computer.
Everybody's being like Hanuman. He can reduce or become very large. You guys are fantastic, and I'm so grateful to you for coming tonight to hear this discourse in the Bhagavad-Gita. This is very auspicious. They say that just the chanting of God's name only one time can remove more sin than
Then
you
you can-
can literally commit.
That's true.
So now everyone's karma has been neutralized. So we have a good place to start from. We have a clear canvas. We have a blank canvas to start with, and all bad things are now gone and been removed, and they've been burned to ash. Actually, that's what the Vedas has to say about that. So anyone who would call upon the name of God in the Bible, it says shall be saved. And
Yes.
once you call upon the name of the Lord from the rising to the setting of the sun, pray unceasingly, hallowed be that name. So it doesn't matter where we're inspired from. It doesn't matter. God is for everyone all the time. We're all sons and daughters of the one God. And so the idea is to hear God speak to us and do it in a humble way and call out the name of God, just like a small child would for the parent in distress, or someone who's in the ocean and realizes the only way that they're going to be relieved is if someone will pick them up and take them out.
I think in the Bible, there was also one verse. In the beginning, there was the Word.
And the Word
And the
was
Word
God.
Was God.
And the Word was with God.
With God. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So that word actually in the Vedas is Om. It's
The holy name.
it's actually spelled A-U-M. Om.
Okay.
Om. Right. And so Amen comes from that. Home, the word home comes from that. There's so many things. If you look at the Vedic language, you can see it's the mother language of all other languages, and everything else is derived from that.
That's true.
It's a great wealth of knowledge. It's the original knowledge. It's everyone's birthright. And when we avail ourselves of this knowledge, I'll be honest with you. When I first came to the Vedic literature, I had questions. Who am I?
Yes.
How did I get in this place? Well, it's dark here. There's danger here. Why am I in a place like this? What is the truth? What is in the universe? Why are all these stars, trillions and trillions of stars and galaxies? What's going on out there? Who is God? What does he look like? What's he doing? What does he think about all this? What's his instruction to us? And so if we take that seriously as questions, it's called Tato Brahma Jigyasa. Tato Brahma Jigyasa. We should find out who we are, what we're doing here. It is the great duty of all souls to find their home. And by the way, this is not it.
I always ask people to answer 4 questions, not immediately. Go home, think of that for a couple of weeks and come back. Who am I? Why am I here? Why am I suffering? And what can I do to mitigate this suffering?
Thank you.
These 4 important questions.
They are. So Srila Prabhupada told his disciples, he said, don't go on in life just carefree thinking that there are no reactions to your activity.
Yeah.
Don't go on like that until time for death. Make this your primary study in life. Certainly eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, that's going on even in the bugs and the animals and the bees. I mean, every creature can do that.
Yes.
So if that's what we're meant for, just to have better places to eat, better houses to live, better sex life, better this, better whatever that is, that is temporary and is pertaining only to the mortal body, which is destined for becoming dust or ash or whatever. And so at this point, our study is to find out the nature of the soul, to find out the nature of the supreme soul, and to answer those 4 questions that our illustrious doctor has asked today. That would be your prescription for the next class, next Monday night at 7 o'clock.
Okay.
Come back with those questions answered, but I will promise you, you're going to have to study the Gita to do that, okay?
What can I do to mitigate my miseries? So
Yeah, that's it.
that's the
That's it.
Bhagavad-gītā.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, so is there anything anybody would like to add before we end the meeting? Because it's 8:01 and I'm trying to do my job the right way today.
Well, I have to say a few words.
Okay, please.
I was a medical student and I'm from Malaysia.
Mhm.
So I studied in India and went back to Malaysia in 1974. And just like you, I also met a few Hare Krishna devotees. And some of them wore the orange dress, the Swami dress. And I was immediately attracted to them. I do not know why, but
I
of
know
course,
why.
Bhagavad-gītā tells us why. Purva Bhyas Ten Eva Hiryati Asya. So it tells us in your previous life, you are trying to start from where you left off.
Right.
So I was just a student. I met them. I really enjoyed the Back to Godhead magazines. And my goal at that time was to come to America, which I did many years later. And I want to join the life membership. So I joined it twice. I joined it once in New York and once in West Virginia.
I congratulate you for your intelligent move. That was very good. You should do it 3 times. Why not? You know?
Yeah. I was always very interested in Bhagavad-gītā. And I did not know when I really started reading it. But when I went back home, I found a Bhagavad-gītā in one of the closets. And I opened it and I realized that, is it myself who have been reading it? It was all underlined with a red pen. And I was the only one using a red pen to underline that.
Wow.
So I must have been reading it long time back, even before I went to India as a teenager.
Well, where do you live now?
I live here in Texas, in Texarkana.
Oh, in Texas. Okay. Yeah. You're Dallas?
I'm the
Texarkana.
northeast border of Texas and Arkansas.
We should definitely come and visit you at some point. There's no question.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
I love to talk. One thing I told Prabhu. So do put me on any stage you want, anywhere you want, and I will talk nonstop.
Well, you and I have a similar characteristic, you know.
Yeah.
What you found is once your cup is full, it starts to run over. And when it runs over, like for an example, this meeting is for 1 hour, but this is pretty much the subject matter of my life. And it has become I'm trying to become cent% God conscious. So cent%, that means that every moment, 100%.
Every moment.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
At all times. So to do that, we practice this mantra meditation primarily, and then we study the ancient text like Bhagavad-gītā, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Puranas, the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, like that. And in doing so, we are thrilled at every moment, literally.
Absolutely. Actually, that was one of the things I just taught a couple of people last few sessions, that Lord Krishna does not let us forget him even for a second. And so I have everybody thinking, and then I started the discussions, basically telling them what Krishna has given us, that we cannot forget him. If you remember in verses chapter 9, text 26, 27, yet patram pushpam phalam toyam. So whatever you eat, whatever you offer, whatever you give away, whatever donation you make, O son of Kunti, do that as an offering unto me.
Right.
Whether you offer me a leaf, a flower, a water, a fruit, anything. So don't we eat some fruits? Don't we drink some water? Don't we give something to somebody? Don't we do some charity? If you base your life entirely on what Lord Krishna says, you cannot forget him. He said, I'm the light of the sun and I'm the light of the moon. Don't you see the sunshine every day? Don't you feel it on your skin?
Taste of water.
Yeah, when you see the full moon, what comes into your mind? It should be the Ras Leela.
Yeah.
So in this way, if we train ourselves, we actually cannot forget him.
That's it.
Literally,
And that's
we
what
cannot
Bhagavad
forget
Gita is for. And as we
It's
go through each
impossible.
one of these chapters, we'll go through each chapter. And some of the quotes that you're saying are from chapter 6, 7, 9, like that. But in the 18th chapter, Krishna explains that he can be known, or in the 9th chapter, he can be known by unallowed devotional service. In other words,
Yes.
person becomes completely devoted, then he
Yes.
will reveal himself within the heart, and it won't be hard to remember Krishna, because Krishna says, I am knowledge, forgetfulness, and remembrance. So all of these things that our doctor is speaking about, we'll be studying as we go along. But in respect to our group tonight, I do have to end this call. It was a 1 hour meeting. We're now 6 minutes over. I'm trying to be right. So I can go for hours just like you, Doc, and I appreciate it very much.
Maybe you and I can do it, and Ranga can
Well,
do it sometimes.
we'll have our own time together. I promise you. Wonderful.
I love to discuss.
Yeah, definitely. Well, guys, thank you so much, and I appreciate everyone being here. And know that we plan to continue like this, and then we'll also record these meetings and we'll post them. Our dear Rangavati Prabhu will post these probably on Facebook. Who knows what she'll do? She's amazing. She's our social media guru. So we'll just leave that up to her. All right.
Sure.
Thank you,
Okay.
Prabhu.
Well, thank you
Okay.
guys
Good
so
night.
much for
Hare
coming.
Krishna.
I'll see you next
Good
week.
night.
All
Hare
right.
Krishna, everybody.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Oh.
Hari Bol.